let's get right to the business.
Read these headlines. This album must be gone. This album must be gone.
What classic albums are? Classic albums are.
Come to Hip Hop Podcast.
What up, y'all? I am your host, Vegas, and welcome to episode 100 of Hip Hop Now Podcast, a podcast designed to catch you up on all things hip hop, music, and culture that happened throughout the week or through the years or whatever way you want to flip it. Please know that this podcast is not only available at soundcloud.com/hiphoppolitic, where the hop and the politics share the P, but also it's available on your iTunes iOS device. It's available on your Android, Google Play Music. It's available on Stitcher Radio if you like that app. If you listen to Tunein Radio, it's also on there. Podbean is your bag? It's on there also. It's everywhere. All right, maybe it's not everywhere, but it's damn near close to being everywhere. And if you enjoy what this podcast is, please share, like, subscribe. Those are the three pillars of doing podcasts or any kind of media content. Because a lot of times, you know, we like stuff, we come back for it, we like it, blah, blah, blah. But we never think about the fact that, you know, other people who we know who love hip hop may like also. And one of those things is with this podcast in particular, what I've thought in the beginning was, not everybody, including myself sometimes, can keep up with what's going on in the hip-hop world, right? It's hard to turn the radio to find out because they're really only talking about an elite group of individuals. It paints a totally different picture of the whole that is hip-hop that's coming out, whether it's older artists you enjoyed that you really didn't know still were doing music because they don't get airplay, or even just the conversations that happen. So what happens, you have to go on the internet and you got to dumb through forums and you got to look at what people share in order to find out, you know, hip hop news. And this is for the people, hip hop fans who really care about hip hop even to this day. So the podcast was an idea to provide you with a couple of stories and some perspectives. Got to give you the perspectives of what's going on in hip hop on a week to week basis. I want to thank everybody that's listened to this podcast, that shared it, liked it, commented on it, and going forward into the future, I have a lot of things up my sleeve to make it better. I know it sounds like people say that all the time, but I actually been doing it. For example, like the YouTube channel, B-Roll Network, the letter B, roll as in role play, ROLE, and network is something that I'm starting to do the same thing. Provide you with content that you are interested in from various people, not just myself, that you can subscribe to and watch just like you would turn on the radio to listen to The Breakfast Club, just like you would turn on the TV to watch the news or your latest whatever you watch, BET, whatever it may be. That's the whole purpose, you know what I'm saying, is to provide content. And I feel like me and the team of individuals I'm linking up with are unique. We're not your run-of-the-mill, you know, podcasts over here that benefits from financial backing. You know, this is grind. This is underground grind work. So again, I want to thank y'all. This is not what the podcast is about. I just want to let y'all know that. But I want to thank everybody who has played a part in making this podcast possible, including the homie McLovin Beats, who has done the theme music over the years. If you didn't know, you can follow him on Twitter at McLovin Beats. He does the beat that you hear. He does a couple of other beats, so check him out. And all the numerous people who've played a role in making this thing possible, right? Now, since this is episode 100, let's just clear the bag out the way, right? It's not technically it's not because of the extra episodes I do, but as far as the main podcast, this is episode 100. One thing, shout out, first of all, to Hip Hop DX, allhiphop.com, spots that I was getting, stories from so I could give them to you and give my perspective. But also shout out to DSR.FM. It's Death Star Radio. If you are a hip hop fan and you like, I only like that traditional hip hop, I'm here for bars and lyrics, you have to. You have to. Even if you just do it just to see what I'm talking about. They have an app. It's on iOS and Android. It's called Death Star Radio. It's, if you want to type it in your browser, it's DSR.FM. And it's a 24-hour straight, uncensored hip-hop station. And when I say that, there's no, and I'm not trying to diss. I'm just saying there's some people who they don't have no time for no mumble rap. They don't have no time for no auto-tune, no singing. It is straight bars. Boom bap, rhyming, that's it. Traditional hip-hop music. So, and it's run by a cool dude named Crash who puts his own blood, sweat, and tears into making that happen. And it's pretty dope. And you can also hear me do newscasts on there. So DSR.FM, or you can download the app Death Star Radio on iOS or Android. Now to get into the topic at hand, because this is not going to be a very long podcast. I wanted to do a podcast for this 100th episode that represented something a little bit universal, right? Like a concept, something like I do with the extras where I focus in on one topic. And I felt like, what's the best thing to do? And I was going to do this in video form, but I said, what the hell? Let's do it now. And we're going to talk about these things. And I'm going to need you to comment about these things. But when we look at hip hop today, right, and we look at how people grade certain releases, certain artists, where they rank these different things, what they consider to be hot, whether it's an album, a song, who they consider to be number one. All of these things that, every time we go on our timeline, there's a top 5 lyricists of all time. There's a top 10 MCs right now. And we always debate over the list because, we don't always agree. But I think I know why we don't agree, because there's 2 versions of hip hop. There's 2 communities now. Before there was one unified community. But there's 2 communities of thought. And no, I'm not talking about old heads versus millennials, because with this concept, they're all mixed together. So that's the only community. There's no separation between old heads and millenniums. It's literally millennials. Millennials is literally a situation where there are people who base an MC or an album success on how dope the music is, period. And that's a traditional way of thinking, right? You listen, the lyrics are dope, the beats is hot, the concept, the album's hot, right? But then you have some people who use that same word, hot, right? Or lit, or whatever you want to say. But they'll use it in a different context, right? So to them, when they hear it, this album is hot because everybody's talking about it, because it's new, because it has this many streams, or, it sold this much, like Drake's album, like Drake crushed the streaming record. But is the album that hot when you think about the traditional sense or the traditional use of the word hot? So I think that's kind of where things are getting hung up a little bit, where you have one definition of hot and I have another. And I'm not talking about people's opinion as it relates to the individual, because that's different. What you think is hot, I might think is whack, whatever it may be. But I'm talking about people who really grade artist success and what position they put them on the list by their marketing, by their popularity, by how much they've sold as far as sales, success, financial, things of that nature. That's how they consider them to be the best, the kings, hot. Like, if everybody's talking about it when it comes out, doesn't matter if they stop talking about it in 2 days, but if right at the moment somebody's talking about it and everybody's joining in and it's the craziest thing ever to everybody for 24 hours, that album is hot. In some cases, you've seen it online, that album is classic within hours of release. And then you have the traditionalists who are like, yo, I got to listen to it maybe 3 more times, you know. And what I think what's happening is when you go online, you don't really know how do people mean. You know what I'm saying? Like, for example, I may see somebody post, because I had listened to Drake's album, the new album, More Life, but I only got to like 3 tracks because I had to go do something else, right? And I liked what I heard so far. But online, you know, I saw people raving like, yo, when I heard this, man, I shed a tear. When I did it, please don't shed tears over nothing. Whatever. When I heard this track, I was like, yo, flames and blah, 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 and emojis all over the place. So I'm like, damn, I got to hear this. But I'd probably fall more on the traditionalist side, because then when I ask that person, yo, how is it? And they like, yo, it's crazy. Kanye's on there. Yo, he going at Meek. He said a little something about Jay, blah, blah, blah. Yo, it's crazy. So now I'm hyped, because when you say all of that, I'm thinking like, yo, this album is dope. I even hear it yet. You know what I'm saying? And then when I go in and I listen to it, I don't feel like, and this is, I guess, partially a More Life review, but I don't feel like, yo, they let me down or it is as crazy. I kind of felt like, well, it's good, but it's kind of what he does. It's nothing different from what he already does. It's nothing special. It's more the same, but not in a bad way. You know what I'm saying? It's just good. That's it. It's good. That's it. But the thing is to that person, it's hot. You know why? Because everybody was anticipating it. Everybody tuned into, Beats One Radio or whatever to hear him talk about it and launch and play records. Everybody was prompted to go and buy it right away, and everybody's rushing to hear it, you know, so that they can post about it. And that happens a lot. Like, think about when Netflix puts a new series out. You know what I'm saying? Like, people will rush to be the first person to talk about things, to, oh, you know, this is the new saying, and grab gifts from the like Dave Chappelle joint, like grab a gift from here and blah, blah, blah. And it's kind of like it's more about the trendy nature of getting hyped about something than it is about the actual product. You know what I'm saying? And again, that's what kind of drives, especially social media. That definitely drives the opinions on social media. And then the traditionalists listen, like myself. And then when we come out and we like, J. Cole is hot, but album's kind of boring. Then everybody's upset. Yo, I can't just listen to it and, you know, that quick and form a bad opinion. Well, what's the difference between listening to 2 tracks and posting these extremely favorable, you know, status updates about the album that get people hyped to hear it and calling it classic in 2 seconds? But if it's something that's not a favorable review, maybe not completely negative or maybe negative, people think that those people are jumping to conclusions. And that's one thing, like with hip hop today, that, I mean, I'm not saying that you got to call the hip hop police or the hip hop governor and have him put some regulations in place. But the thing is what's naturally going to happen is it's just going to get out of hand. And I think it has in a couple of instances. I think it happens with Future every time. Because when Future drops something, even the media, they will literally act like he's dropping these crazy albums back to back. Every week he's dropping crazy albums. But really all they're hyping is the fact that he's just putting out content every other week. But there's no real buzz after the fact. Like, to me, if we're not really talking about your album the way we were the second it came out, like, maybe a week later, then it ain't that good. It's just not. You know what I'm saying? And I feel like with Drake's album or with J. Cole's album, like with Drake's album, because of the success with the streams, that's carrying it to another week. So I would think, maybe he drops a video and then that brings it up. And maybe that's the strategy, to keep it going by keeping the conversation going yourself, because honestly, if an album is that good, like if it's really that good, people will naturally post about it all the time. There would be no time frame and things of that nature. And I feel like, I said all of that to just say that I feel like the definitions in hip hop are changing in regards to how we view things. You know what I'm saying? Again, you say it's hot, I say it's hot. I have a different reason why it's hot. That's kind of a traditional way of thinking. You think it's hot because of the marketing strategy and all the things you've been bombarded with. You feel like it's the only thing that's being talked about. So it's crazy. And I think that's manufactured. Because, for example, right, I watched, and I know I did a podcast on him, but whatever. That's, again, I'm a fan of some of the interviews, but I have my reservations about Vlad. But you can check out the podcast I did about Vlad TV to learn more about what I was saying. It's very important, honestly. So check that out, soundcloud.com/hiphoppolitic. But I watched an interview he did with the dude Ron Browns, the cat that, you remember Ether Boy? He produced Ether for Nas when he was dissing Jay, and he was telling the story behind it. I think it was kind of dope because it was little things I didn't know about it. And they talked about, the battle itself and what New York was like when Takeover was out and then when Ether dropped. And I thought, and look, let's just clear the air, man. I know people have short-term memories. They like to act like they weren't really there. They put themselves in a bubble when it happened. Across the country, but specifically New York City, was all Ether once that dropped. It was literally like everything stopped. Ron Brown said in the interview, it was like Hot 97 and everybody paused their regular programming just to go back and forth with this Ether takeover thing. And it was truly a clash of titans in hip hop. And I think moments like that, moments like when 50 was crashing, the hip hop world and he was dissing Ja Rule and blah, 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 it became like the only topic. And of course, it's easy to say, well, they didn't have all the distractions as far as the internet that some have now. So these guys got to maintain that buzz. But honestly, I don't think they even have it, because those situations that I just named that are older, they dominated the conversation. I'll give you a newer example. Remember when Kendrick did that Control verse on Big Sean's album? That kind of did the same thing. That stopped a lot. And because you know what it does? Not only is it shocking or controversial, but it brings up the debate. And people will debate certain topics. People will debate for years. Again, the Jay-Z versus Nas situation. There are dudes who don't want to hear that. Like, yo, Ether was cool. And it's like, I don't know where you were when that song dropped. But unless you're just a Jay-Z fan to the core, which I am, but I'm also a hip-hop fan, and I know when I heard Takeover, I was like, I don't think Nas can come back from this one. But when I heard Ether, I was like, I think this battle is over. And that's what everybody said, you know what I'm saying? And, how Whack Super Ugly was proved that. But there are people who still won't let that go. Why? Because it's such a entertaining debate to have, to be honest. It's no different when you're talking about greatest of all time in boxing or, Michael Jordan versus whoever in sports. You know what I'm saying? It's the type of debate that has so many points that you can debate it back and forth. And that's what hip hop is. But I feel like this whole definition of what's hot or who's the best lyricist, a lot of times they use those words. Like you can look at, MTV does their top 10 hottest MCs. And then they make it seem, well, we say hottest because we're talking about appeal, popularity, and things like that. Yeah, but you also said MC. You can't do that. You can't make the list clear when you say hottest, which I agree with. You say hottest, then yeah, you take some of them dudes out. But the minute you say MC, well, I'm like, whoa, whoa, whoa. No. Because see, when you're talking about MC, now you're talking about a lyricist when you say MC. So you can't say the hottest because, let's be clear, there's another little division, rappers and MCs, and that's another debate that's gone on for a long time. A rapper is a Lil Yachty, and he's barely that, but he's a rapper. A rapper was like MC Hammer. Ice Cube, really. Dope artists who can make songs. You know what I'm saying? DMX, who can make songs, but a lyricist is somebody where you really have to listen, not for messages, because this ain't no disrespect to. I know people like Ice Cube, and Ice Cube was my favorite probably of all time, really. You can't look at DMX like, DMX might feel like, yo, man, I'm a lyricist. Like, you know what I'm saying? But I don't think he is. Because when I listen to a DMX record or Ice Cube or whoever, or even a Drake, I feel like Drake is a rapper. I feel like I don't have to think that much to listen to their music. I get their punchlines, they hit. I get the swag, they hit. Like I was talking about Rick Ross, same thing. They're rappers. Lyricists are people where it sounds like they're just rapping, but there's so much put into their technique. Whether it's the flow, lyrics, schemes, you know what I'm saying, the punchlines. It's the way the verses are crafted. The bars are crafted in such a way where they have depth. That's not a lot of rappers. That's not rappers at all. Those are MCs. Those are lyricists to me. You know what I'm saying? People who can craft within rhymes. One thing I loved about Jay-Z and I loved about Biggie was they would make party records, right? The beat can be some 80s sampled R&B soul thing. The hook can be Biggie, Biggie, give me one more chance. But then in their verses, they would play around with lyrics like it was a boom bap beat. So it was never like, it wasn't what they did with Mace. With Mace, they completely dumbed him down. And I really think Mace is like the precursor. Money Mace is the precursor to the Little Yachties and stuff like that, because he was damn near mumbling. But, they didn't dumb down their lyrics so much. It was always little gems in there. You know what I'm saying? Like little lines that had to, make you think. It's like a line that Biggie says that seems very simple, but it makes you think. Pockets like rabbit ears. That's not a simple line. Somebody has to say to themselves, what the hell is he talking about? Pockets like rabbit ears. Oh, when you pull your inside of your pockets out and they hang, they look like rabbit ears. Therefore, your pockets are empty. You have no money. You see what I'm talking about? Look at all those little different things that came up from listening to that line. And that's a simple line, but it's not like, I ain't got no money in my pocket. That's straightforward. That's what a rapper would do. That's what rappers do. They just speak, period. Lyricists are poets. You know what I'm saying? It's like poetry. So those are the little things that I feel like today in hip hop as a whole, whether you want to include I'm including anybody who raps, whether they're whack or not. When you look at it as a whole, the fans tend to judge who's hot, and who's not by a totally different scale from the traditional sense, which is how are they doing, as a marketing appeal. If you see Lil Yachty on a Sprite commercial and you see him on a Target commercial, to somebody, he is the hottest rapper out right now because he's getting it, period. It's not really about the music as much as it's about the exposure, the deals they get, and how much, you're confronted with them via endorsements and stuff like that. So even though I may love this new album by Odyssey, he's not really going to be considered one of the hottest because I'm just judging it off his album and his music and the production and the lyrics and all of that. And I feel like that album's hot. But guess what? On a grand scale, nobody knows about it. There's a couple people now who's like, who the hell is Odyssey? You know what I'm saying? And that's what I mean. So I said all that to say this. Honestly, it does not matter because the game is going to complete itself. Again, you could see an album be released. You could see everybody going crazy, 100, this track is crazy, blah, 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 emoji, emoji, emoji. And then slowly but surely, the traditionalists rise up and just be like, it's okay. What about it is hot? Don't give me no spreadsheets of their financials. Don't give me no numbers about how many streams when you know damn well everybody who streams isn't necessarily a fan of it. They just need to hear if it's any good. If you count my stream for listening to it because I want to hear what it sounds like, maybe that's the win for them. I don't know. You tell me in the comment section, what do you think about these new rules as it relates to hip hop? Does it even matter? How do you feel? Do you grade an artist on his success, his or her success? And that's how you decide whether something's hot. Do you listen to it very long, or do you listen to it until the hype kind of dies down and then you're waiting to hear what's new? All of us are guilty of it in some way. Maybe you're a traditional cat. What do you feel? Do you feel like, yo, if it ain't good, it ain't good, period? Leave your comments in the comment section. Again, I want to thank everybody for listening to this podcast. Subscribe, hit the like button, and definitely share this podcast with those individuals who you know may be interested in hip-hop perspectives, debates, and news. That's going to do it for me for this week. Follow me on social media at Vegas World INC, meaning that's Twitter, Instagram, Snapchat. And also if you have Facebook, facebook.com/hiphop right now. Hit that like button, share that channel, just a little bit of news there also. And also check me out on the B-Roll Network for some videos and a couple of other things that's going on YouTube. You can subscribe to that as well. BROLE Network. There's going to be a couple of videos up there. You get to see the homie, me do some stuff. You also get to see some. You like video games, you like sports, you like a whole bunch film. It's a ton of things coming. So make sure to subscribe to the B-Roll Network and follow us on social media at B-Roll Network 1. Until next time, y'all, I am not a critic. I'm a fan. Peace.